What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to JohnnyKpicks. And yes, this is my super late edition for my full card picks and predictions and also bets video for UFC Vegas 57, Tsarukyan versus Gamrot. First things first, please hit that like button, make friends with that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on those notifications so you don't miss out on any of my new videos or live streams. Okay, so the real reason why this video is late is because I went to go see UFC Austin live, and after that, I stayed there a few extra days with my wife. We had some fun, laid out by the pool, walked around in 100-degree heat, and we also ate a lot of Texas barbecue. But let me tell you, that event was a banger. I really feel like the money that me and my wife paid for those tickets, we basically robbed the UFC. They didn't rob us this time. But a pro tip for anyone who wants to go see a UFC event, I would suggest waiting last minute to buy tickets, because what we ended up doing was we were checking on like StubHub and the secondary markets, but we went to the arena actually and got tickets at their ticket box, and we got pretty good seats for what we paid for. So I would suggest anyone, like I said, if they want to go see a UFC event, don't get them early because you'll end up paying all the Ticketmaster fees and all that stuff. Just go to the event, go to the box office, ask to see what best seats they got, and then go from there, because we ended up getting really cheap tickets and they were really good seats. But like I said, UFC Austin was a banger from top to bottom. I ended up going 8-5 on my picks. And for my bets, man, I ended up losing minus 0.03 units. And I think it was a couple fight cards ago, I lost minus 0.05 units. So, hey, I'm getting closer to that break even part. I don't know how it's getting this close, but again, this is basically a wash fight card, but I'm okay with that because there were so many finishes and it was a great card. So out of the 13 fights on the UFC Austin, there were 9 finishes, and 2 of the 4 decisions were split decisions that could have went either way. And I guess the UFC was feeling pretty generous because they opened up their pocketbooks and gave out 10 performance bonuses throughout the night. So that's good. That's good on them, because it definitely was one of the better fight cards of the year. And the only other fight card that I can think of on the top of my head that was really good was UFC London. So those 2 cards for me were the best of the year so far. But some of my favorite performances were the Dolidze knockout, the Ramos knockout, the Yanez knockout, and the Buckley knockout. So if you were going to tell me Dolidze looks like this every fight, I would pick Dolidze and bet Dolidze every fight, because this is the first time I actually got to see him live, and this is what he should be. Like, I know his last couple fights he didn't look all that great and all that dangerous, but he looked like a man on a mission to get that finish, and he is a monster. And with Ramos's knockout, I literally jumped out of my seat and screamed how crazy when that happened, because that spinning elbow was amazing. It was perfectly timed, and I really think Ramos is a really good prospect to watch. And Giannis's KO, man oh man, that arena was erupting because everybody was against Tony Kelly. And for whatever reason, with whatever beef they got going on, I don't know, I don't really go on Twitter too much anymore, but I don't think the arena erupted any louder that whole night when Yanez got the knockout and then gave him the double middle fingers while he was down. So it was really cool to see that. Everyone was crazy when that happened. But Yanez, I'm really high on him. He's a very good boxer, has very good hands, and I think he's going to be moving on up the rankings fairly soon. And last but not least, the Buckley knockout. Again, I picked Buckley as a underdog last week, and I didn't think he was going to look that good, but he seems to be leveling up each fight. And if he can look like this and potentially get better each fight, man, he's going to be a problem in that division as well. But all right, guys, I can literally go over every fight for UFC Austin because it was that great. But let's get to my picks and predictions for UFC Vegas 57. The first fight we have is Frey versus Vanessa Demopolous. Frey is 11-6, 37 years old, 5'3", with a 65-inch reach. And Demopolous is 7-4, 33 years old, 5'2", with a 62-inch reach. So with my pick here, I'm going to pick Frey to win. So for me, Frey's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage and I think an inch height advantage. And I do think she'll definitely be the better striker. On the mat, both have good grappling. Demopolous is more of a submission artist though, but she doesn't have that great of wrestling, so it's really hard for her to get takedowns. And also, Frey's takedown defense is 90%. So I don't think Vanessa's going to be able to take down Frey. And if she does, it's going to be something kind of fluky. Maybe Frey trips or something like that. But if this fight plays out on the feet, I like Frey all day here. I don't think Vanessa's going to be able to keep up with the striking. And I do think Frey's going to be able to outstrike her throughout the 3 rounds. But if it does get on the mat, it's going to be a little dicey because, like I said, Demopolous does have good submissions on her back. But with my pick, I'm going to say Frey outstrikes Vanessa for all 3 rounds and wins by decision. Next fight we have is Mario Bautista versus Brian Kelleher. Bautista is 9-2, 28 years old, 5'9" with a 69-inch reach. And Kelleher is 24-13, 35 years old, 5'6" with a 64-inch reach. So this is going to be an interesting fight, and I really want to pick Brian Kelleher to win this one. And I have a weird feeling if I don't, it's going to come back and bite me in the butt. But with my pick here, I'm going to pick Bautista to win. So Bautista is going to be the bigger fighter here. And I really like his cardio and how he pushes a pace, and he always consistently moves forward. And in some of Kelleher's fights, we have seen his cardio fade against some fighters when they do push a pace on him. But Bautista's going to have the better striking in my eyes, and he does throw more volume than Kelleher. Kelleher does have some power in his hands. His striking has improved a little bit, but I don't think he's going to be able to knock out Bautista by any means. If anything, he'll be able to submit him with a guillotine because he does have a nasty guillotine. But I do think Bautista will keep this fight standing. If he does try to take down Kelleher, I do think he'll be able to, but he's just playing with fire at this point. Again, I do like Bautista's chances on the feet. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Bautista wins this one by a decision. Next fight we have is Cody Durden versus JP Buys. Durden is 12-4-1, 31 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. And Buys is 9-4, 26 years old, 5'5" with a 67-inch reach. So with my pick here, I'm going to ever so slightly lean Durden to win this one. So both guys are coming off losses, but I just think overall Durden is a slightly better fighter. On the feet, I do think Durden has the edge. I think he has a little bit more power than Buys. And Durden does have good wrestling, but Buys does have good grappling and good submissions from his back. So if Durden does try to wrestle Buys and take him down, Durden's going to have to be able to defend the submission after submission after a submission because that's all Buys does. He tries to finish the fight if he gets on the mat. And honestly, I just think that's Buys' only path to victory here. I think it's going to be submission or nothing for him. And Durden has a chance to either knock him out or win this one by decision with control time and just outstriking Buys on the feet. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Durden does keep this fight standing and just outstrikes Buys to a decision win. Moving on up the card, we have Raulian Paiva versus Sergey Morozov. Paiva is 21-4, 26 years old, 5'8" with a 69.5-inch reach. And Morozov is 17-5, 33 years old, 5'6" with a 67-inch reach. So this was one of the toughest fights on this card to predict, and I kept going back and forth with this one. But by the slightest of margins, I'm going to pick Paiva to win this one. So both guys are coming off pretty bad KO losses, but Morozov's KO loss was only 3 months ago, and Paiva's KO loss was about 6 months ago. So I don't know if Morozov took enough time off of this knockout, but we'll see in this fight. But both guys are really good strikers. Paiva's going to be the taller and longer fighter, and he also does throw more volume than Morozov. I will say, though, that Morozov will have a wrestling edge, but Paiva's takedown defense is 75%, so it's pretty decent. I'm not going to say he's going to be able to stuff every takedown, but he's going to make it difficult for Morozov. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of game plan Morozov comes out with here. If he wants to go wrestling heavy, I don't know if he's going to be able to stick with that game plan for all 3 rounds. But if this fight does stay standing, I like Paiva's chances a lot better. I think Morozov is pretty hittable. And also, I do think Paiva's fought the better competition. He's the younger fighter. He's going to be the bigger guy too. And he throws more volume, like I said. So I like Paiva's chances here as an underdog. So with my pick, I'm going to say Paiva wins this one by knockout. Next fight we have is TJ Brown versus Shalian Nuerdanbieke. Brown is 16-8, 32 years old, 5'9" with a 73.5-inch reach. And Shalian is 36-10, 28 years old, 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. So with my pick here, I'm going to pick Brown to win. So I'm going to put this out there. Don't be fooled by Shalian's record. And I know he's fought a lot of fights and he has a lot of wins, but a lot of these guys that he won is not UFC caliber. And I'm going to be honest again here. I'm just not impressed with him one bit. He's very low volume on the feet. He's not the greatest striker technically. He does have decent power in his hands, but he doesn't throw a lot. And he's mainly a wrestler that can take you down, but he just doesn't keep you down on the ground. And with Brown, he's a solid fighter. He has good striking. He has good wrestling. He's not going to wow you in any category, but I do think he's the better fighter here overall. I think he'll be able to out-wrestle Lian. He's going to be able to outstrike him. It just depends on where Brown wants to take this fight. So I think this is kind of a no-brainer pick here this week. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Brown does get the win, and it's going to go to decision, and he should win 29-28 or 30-27. Next fight we have is Tafon Nchukwi versus Carlos Ulberg. Nchukwi is 6'2", 27 years old, 6 foot with a 77-inch reach. And Ulberg is 4'1", 31 years old, 6'4", with a 77-inch reach. So this is another interesting fight, and with my pick here, I'm going to go with the underdog, and I'm going to pick Nchukwi to win. So both guys are strikers that have lots of power, but honestly, I just can't trust Ulberg right now in his career. In his first fight, he went out there guns blazing and basically just emptied the gas tank in the first round, and he ended up losing early in the second. And in his second fight, he came out super composed, didn't throw a lot of striking. He did go to the judges' scorecards and win, but it was just a tale of two tapes, and I don't know what kind of Ulberg we're going to get here. And with Nchukwi, in his last fight, he looked really good in the first couple rounds, and then in the beginning of the third round, right before it, his corner told him to go out there and finish the fight. And he tried to be super aggressive and do it, and he ended up getting knocked out there. So I do feel like the corner did him a disservice in that fight because he was winning that fight 2-0, and he was an underdog as well. So hopefully his corner doesn't give him any bad advice again, but I like his striking a little bit more. He throws a little bit more volume. He has really good leg kicks, and he's a tough guy as well. And going by both of the last fights for these guys, I think this fight will go later in the rounds, and if there is a finish, it may be in the late second or third round. But I can also see a decision here. So with my pick, though, I'm going to say Nchukwi does get the job done, and he wins this one by a decision. All right, main card time. We have Chris Curtis versus Rodolfo Vieira. Curtis is 28-8, 34 years old, 5'10", with a 75-inch reach. And Vieira is 8-1, 32 years old, 6 foot, with a 73-inch reach. Okay, so I've picked against Chris Curtis in every one of his UFC fights, and I looked foolish doing so. So I'm going to try to right my wrongs here, and I'm going to pick Chris Curtis to win this one. So this is a classic striker versus grappler matchup. Obviously, Chris Curtis is going to be the better striker with more power, and Vieira is going to be the better grappler with better submissions. And honestly, it's really just as easy as that. If this fight takes place on the feet for the majority of the time, Curtis should have no problem knocking out Vieira. And if this fight gets to the mat at any point, I can see Vieira getting the submission real quick. But the main reason why I picked Curtis here is he has really good takedown defense, and if he's able to stuff Vieira's takedowns early, Vieira is going to stop going for takedowns because he does fade as the fight goes on. And I think Chris Curtis will be able to find that one-shot knockout like he always does, and he'll be able to put out Vieira sometime in the second round. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Chris Curtis does get that knockout win here. Next fight we have is Umar Nurmagomedov versus Nate Maness. Nurmagomedov is 14-0, 26 years old, 5'8", with a 69-inch reach. And Maness is 14-1, 30 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach. Okay, so with my pick here, I'm going to say Umar wins this one. So yeah, I know the betting line is crazy, and if you didn't get this really early, I mean, you're looking at minus 900 or so right now. So probably not a good idea to bet this one unless you're going to do like a finish prop or something like that. But I do think Umar is the right side to play. So for me, Umar is very solid everywhere. He has good striking, he has good grappling and submissions, and he has decent wrestling. But Maness is no slouch either. He has good grappling himself. He does have some knockout power and decent striking, but I just think Umar's striking and grappling is a little bit better. And I do think Umar has Maness beat in every category. Another thing to note, in Maness's last victory against Gravely, he got super lucky as the round ended when he got knocked out, and he was able to compose himself in between rounds, and he actually came out and knocked out Gravely early in the second round. But honestly, I see this fight playing out on the feet. I don't think Maness is going to want to try to test his grappling with Umar, and I don't think Umar is going to want to do it either, because I do think Umar is going to have the edge in striking. But I do think as the fight goes on, I do think Umar is going to be able to catch Maness at some point in the fight, and Umar is going to jump on him and get that submission. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Umar wins this one by a club and sub submission. Moving on up the card, we have Thiago Moises versus Christos Giagos. Moises is 15-6, 27 years old, 5'9", with a 70.5-inch reach. And Christos is 19-9, 32 years old, 5'10", with a 71.5-inch reach. So for me, this one's another no-brainer pick of the night, and I'm going to go with Moises to win. So I think this is going to be a nice, easy matchup for Moises to get back in the win column here. On the feet, I do think Moises is going to have the edge. His striking is a little bit more technical. He does have okay power as well. And on the mat, I'm going to give that to Moises as well. I think he has better grappling, better submissions. Giagos has been submitted twice in his career, so it's not out of the question that Moises gets a submission win here, but I don't think there's going to be any finish. Giagos is kind of a tough guy on the feet, and Moises isn't much of a finisher, so I do see this fight going to the judges' scorecards, but I just think Moises is a better fighter overall. He should be able to easily cruise to a decision win here. So with my pick, I'm going to say Moises wins this one by decision. All right, people's main event here. We have Josh Parisian versus Alan Baudot. Parisian is 14-5, 32 years old, 6'4", with a 79-inch reach. And Baudot is 8-3, 34 years old, 6'3", with a 79-inch reach. So yeah, not really looking forward to this one. I don't know why this is on the main card, but it is what it is. We got to make a prediction here. And with my pick, I'm going to go with Baudot winning. So both guys are strikers that aren't the greatest fighters in the heavyweight division. But I do think Baudot's striking is more technical. I do think he has a little bit more power. And he's pretty dangerous in the first round, actually. And with Parisian, I mean, yeah, he's good. He's a striker, I guess, if you want to say. And I just don't think he's that great overall. And I do think Baudot is going to be able to outstrike him and win this one in the first round, hopefully, and get that knockout win. So with my pick, I'm just going to go ahead and say Baudot wins this one by a knockout, hopefully for everybody to get this fight over with quickly. And that is my breakdown. Thank you. All right, co-main event time here. We have Neil Magny versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. Magny is 26-8, 34 years old, 6'3", with an 80-inch reach. And Rakhmonov is 15-0, 27 years old, 6'1", with a 77-inch reach. All right, now the fights are here that we're all looking forward to. And with my pick, I'm going to go with Shavkat to win. So I know Magny's been around forever. He has some really good wins in his career. He's a tough, durable dude, and he's very solid overall. But man, Shavkat is the real deal. He can KO anyone. He can submit anyone. And I know this is going to be the biggest test of his career so far, but I do think he'll be able to pass this one with flying colors. So Magny at this point in his career isn't much of a finisher. I think his last finish was like 4 years ago. And with Shavkat, he is a finisher. All 15 of his wins have come by a finish. But the way I see this fight playing out is maybe early on this fight will look competitive, but I think as the fight goes on, I think Shavkat's going to be able to outstrike him, land the cleaner punches, and I do think one of those strikes is going to be able to either stun or wobble Magny, and Shavkat's going to jump on his back maybe and get a submission either by a rear naked choke or like a guillotine. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Shavkat wins this one by submission, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a knockout. Okay, main event time here. We have Arman Tsarukyan versus Mateusz Gamrot. Tsarukyan is 18-2, 25 years old, 5'7", with a 72.5-inch reach. And Gamrot is 20-1, 31 years old, 5'10", with a 70.5-inch reach. Okay, so this is going to be another banger of a fight, but I'm going to side with Tsarukyan to win this one. So both guys are super well-rounded. They got good striking, good grappling, good wrestling. But I just think Tsarukyan's overall game with striking, grappling, wrestling is just a little bit better than Gamrot's. And not to mention, this is going to be a 5-round fight. And in some of Gamrot's fights, he has slowed down a bit in the second round. So I'm kind of worried for his cardio because I haven't seen Tsarukyan slow down whatsoever. And I do think the biggest mismatch is going to be on the feet. That's where I think Tsarukyan's going to have the biggest advantage. I do think he has the better striking and boxing, and he has a little bit more power than Gamrot. But wrestling-wise, I think it's kind of similar. But the way I see this fight playing out is it's going to look competitive early, and as the fight goes on, I think Gamrot's going to start to fade, and Tsarukyan's going to start to take over a little bit, and he may eventually get that knockout in the 4th or 5th round. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Tsarukyan does get the finish here in the 4th round, maybe by a knockout or like a club and sub submission. But alright guys, those are my picks and predictions for UFC 57, but wait, don't go anywhere. Since this is a late video during the week, I'm going to jump right into the bets that I made so far for UFC Vegas 57. So here we go. So the first bet I have is an underdog bet. I bet 1 unit on Nchukwi to win, and I got that at plus 100. So I really like Nchukwi at plus money here, and I do think he is the better fighter because I'm just not 100% sold on Ulberg yet. And like I said in my breakdown of this fight, I do think Nchukwi's corner did him a disservice in his last fight because he was winning that fight, and they gave him some bad advice, and he listened to him, and he got knocked out. So if he can just not do that, I think he'll be able to win this fight pretty easily. Because I do think he's going to have the better cardio, I think he's going to have the better volume, and he does have really good leg kicks as well. If there is a finish, it might be later in the fight, but either way, give me Nchukwi at plus money all day. So the next bet I have is an over-under parlay. I bet 1 unit on the over 1.5 rounds in the Nchukwi Ulberg fight and the over 2.5 rounds in the Shayleann Brown fight, and I got that at plus 139. So like I said in my last bet, I don't think the Nchukwi Ulberg fight's going to be under 1.5 rounds. I do think if there is going to be a finish, it's going to be either late in the 2nd or in the 3rd round, or maybe even go to decision. Because in both of their last fights, they were both really slow and calculated. They weren't going crazy. They didn't want to go for the knockout super early. And I can see this going the same way. Both guys are going to respect each other's power. It's going to go later in the fight. And one way or another, it's going to go over 1.5 rounds. And in the Shayleann Brown fight, both guys aren't finishers. Both guys are wrestlers. And if it gets to the mat, it's going to chew up a lot of time. No one's going to submit each other because both guys are pretty tough. And this fight should go over 2.5 rounds. If it doesn't, I'll be shocked. The third bet I have is a prop bet. I bet 1.5 units on Shavkat to win by finish, and I got that at minus 135. So I know Magny's a tough guy. He doesn't really get submitted or knocked out a lot, but Shavkat is a different animal. He's a killer. He's a finisher. He can knock you out. He can submit you in any way. And I do think he's going to be able to finish Magny. I am leaning a little bit more so towards the submission route, but I just want to be safe with this bet. And as I said in my breakdown with this fight, Shavkat has 15 wins and he's finished all 15 fights. So give me the minus 135. I will take a chance on this all day. The next bet I have is a 2-fighter parlay. I bet 1 unit on Moises and Brown to win, and I got that at plus 109. So these are my 2 no-brainer picks of the night. I really like both these guys as matchups. And I just don't see how Moises loses to Giagos. I think he's the better overall fighter. He's going to have the better striking. He's going to have the better grappling. And he should be able to cruise to an easy decision or maybe even get a late round finish. And with Brown, it's more of the same here. I think he's going to have the better striking, the better wrestling. I don't see a finish happening in this fight either because both guys aren't finishers. So this fight should be a fairly easy one for Brown as well to get a decision win. And my last bet is a 3-fighter parlay. I bet 1.5 units on Umar, Tsarukyan, and Shavkat to win, and I got that at plus 106. So this is my 3-headed monster parlay of the week because obviously all 3 of these guys are monsters. They are heavy favorites for a reason, so why not throw them all together and get some plus money on it? I'm not going to go too in depth with this bet because I do think all 3 guys should win pretty convincingly, but the one fight that will be a little bit closer than the 3 will be the Tsarukyan Gamrot fight in my eyes. I think it'll be competitive early, and as the fight goes on in the 5 rounds, I think Tsarukyan will be able to finish Gamrot maybe in the 4th or 5th round. If not, I think he'll win a decision. But alright guys, those are my bets so far for UFC Vegas 57. I am done with this video for my picks, my predictions, my bets. You got it all in one video. Thank you everybody for watching, and next week I'll be back on my normal schedule where I'm going to have my picks video on Sunday and my bets video on Tuesday. And make sure you don't forget to check back on this video in the comment section or check my Instagram for any added bets this week. I hope everybody enjoys the fights this weekend, and until next time, happy fight night.